Donald Trump delivered a significant surprise to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky ahead of his return to office, announcing during his first formal press conference after winning the election that Zelensky had not been invited to attend his inauguration ceremony. The unexpected statement drew widespread media attention and further fueled speculation about Trump's foreign policy priorities and his stance on Ukraine amidst ongoing geopolitical tensions. Trump's announcement comes at a particularly sensitive time, as the conflict between Ukraine and Russia continues with no immediate resolution in sight. For Ukraine, the omission of an invitation raises concerns over how the incoming U.S. administration will approach its relationship with Kyiv. During President Joe Biden's term, the United States was a staunch supporter of Ukraine, providing significant military aid and political backing to counter Russian aggression. However, Trump's decision to exclude Zelensky has been interpreted by some analysts as a potential signal that his administration might adopt a different approach, one aimed at reducing U.S. involvement in the conflict and reassessing its alliances. NBC reports suggest that Trump's team has already been actively engaging with Russian President Vladimir Putin's office to explore options for brokering a truce between Russia and Ukraine. While the details of these reported talks remain undisclosed, the involvement of Trump's team in back-channel diplomacy points to a broader strategy of recalibrating U.S. foreign policy. Trump's repeated emphasis during his campaign on ending forever wars and reducing American commitments abroad lends further weight to the idea that his administration may prioritize negotiations over prolonged military support. In an additional move to ease international tensions, Trump has reportedly extended an invitation to Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend the inauguration ceremony. While it remains unclear whether Xi has accepted the invitation, the gesture marks a notable shift in tone. Trump's outreach to China is particularly significant, given the historically strained relationship between Washington and Beijing during his first term. Issues ranging from trade wars to geopolitical rivalries in the Indo-Pacific had characterized Trump's earlier presidency, but this invitation suggests a possible attempt to rebuild or redefine ties with the Chinese leadership. The decision to invite Xi while excluding Zelensky is being closely scrutinized for what it may imply about Trump's foreign policy priorities. For Ukraine, the absence of an invitation is a symbolic blow at a time when Kyiv is seeking unwavering international support to withstand Russia's military advances. It could also send mixed signals to other U.S. allies in Europe, particularly NATO members, who have been working to maintain a united front in supporting Ukraine. Political analysts have pointed out that Trump's approach to Russia and China appears to reflect his long-standing emphasis on great power diplomacy, focusing on recalibrating relations with major geopolitical players while potentially sidelining smaller allies. The outreach to both Putin and Xi could be seen as part of Trump's strategy to de-escalate tensions on multiple fronts and position the United States as a key negotiator in resolving global conflicts. However, Trump's critics argue that such moves risk undermining U.S. commitments to its traditional allies. By appearing to prioritize engagement with Russia and China, they contend, Trump's administration may inadvertently weaken Ukraine's position in negotiations and embolden Moscow to press for greater concessions. This perception is particularly concerning for Ukraine, which relies heavily on U.S. diplomatic and military support to counterbalance Russia's overwhelming military strength. On the domestic front, Trump's announcement has also sparked debates about his administration's foreign policy direction. Supporters of Trump's approach argue that engaging directly with Russia and China could pave the way for meaningful resolutions to long-standing conflicts and reduce global instability. They point to Trump's previous efforts to broker high-stakes agreements, such as his meetings with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, as evidence of his willingness to pursue unconventional but potentially effective diplomacy. Opponents, however, view Trump's exclusion of Zelensky as a signal that Ukraine may no longer enjoy the same level of priority under the new administration. They caution that any perceived wavering in U.S. support could embolden Russia to escalate its military operations further, jeopardizing Ukraine's sovereignty and regional stability. For many in Washington, maintaining strong ties with Kyiv is seen as essential not only for Ukraine's survival but also for upholding broader Western principles of democracy and territorial integrity. International reactions to Trump's announcement have been swift and varied.
European allies have expressed concern over the potential shift in U.S. policy toward Ukraine, with some leaders emphasizing the need for continued unity in confronting Russian aggression.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has reiterated the alliance's commitment to Ukraine, calling for sustained international support regardless of changes in U.S. leadership. Meanwhile, Russian officials have welcomed Trump's signals of potential dialogue, viewing them as an opportunity to advance their interests through negotiations rather than prolonged conflict. In China, Trump's invitation to Xi Jinping has been met with cautious optimism. Chinese state media have framed the gesture as a positive step toward stabilizing bilateral relations, while also noting the deep mistrust that remains between Washington and Beijing. Observers in China see the invitation as an opportunity for both countries to find common ground on issues such as trade, climate change, and regional security, although significant challenges remain.
For Ukraine, the exclusion from Trump's inauguration underscores the uncertainty surrounding its future relationship with the United States. Zelensky's government has worked tirelessly to secure international support, and Trump's remarks represent a setback at a critical juncture. Ukrainian officials have downplayed the significance of the exclusion, emphasizing their continued commitment to dialogue with the United States. Nevertheless, the symbolic nature of Trump's decision has sparked concerns in Kyiv over whether the new administration will prioritize diplomatic engagement with Moscow over military and financial aid to Ukraine. Amid these developments, Trump has maintained his stance that U.S. foreign policy under his leadership will focus on advancing American interests while reducing costly international commitments. His campaign rhetoric emphasized the need for the United States to avoid becoming entangled in foreign conflicts, a message that resonated with many voters. However, critics argue that such an approach risks creating power vacuums that could be exploited by adversaries like Russia and China. The broader implications of Trump's announcement are likely to unfold in the coming months as his administration takes shape. For Ukraine, the immediate priority remains securing continued support from Western allies to counter Russian advances and stabilize its economy. For Russia, Trump's apparent willingness to engage in dialogue offers a potential opportunity to advance its strategic objectives, though significant obstacles remain. For China, the invitation to Xi represents a chance to reset relations with the United States, but lingering tensions over trade and security issues could complicate efforts to build trust. As the international community watches closely, Trump's foreign policy decisions will be scrutinized for their impact on global stability. The exclusion of Zelensky from the inauguration, the outreach to Xi Jinping, and the reported back-channel talks with Putin all point to a shifting U.S. strategy under Trump's leadership. Whether these moves will lead to meaningful progress or further divisions remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the geopolitical landscape is entering a new and uncertain phase. For now, Ukraine faces the challenge of navigating a changing international environment while continuing its fight against Russian aggression. The absence of an invitation may be a symbolic blow, but Zelensky's government remains determined to maintain strong ties with the United States and other Western allies. As Trump prepares to assume office, the world will be watching closely to see how his administration shapes the future of U.S. foreign policy and its role in resolving some of the world's most pressing conflicts.